Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, I guess. Welcome to our school board meeting here, today being June 4th. Glad you all could make it. If you will, please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. And now, if you will stand and please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, would you please take roll?
Yes, Madam Chair. Mrs. Bryant? Ms. Burns?
Here.
Ms. Cooper?
Here.
Ms. Dooley?
Here.
Mr. Meyer?
Here.
Ms. Richardson?
Here.
Ms. Torres?
Yes, thank you. All right, as we now are considering our agenda, it's come to my attention, our attention, there are a couple of items that we'd like to consider adding to the agenda. And so if I will start with Ms. Dooley, I guess.
Sure. So I would like us to amend our proposed agenda to add an item 10.4, a discussion of school board meeting times. Second.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. Any discussion around this?
Was
And
it
again,
just-
this is just a motion to amend the agenda.
That's right.
Yes, for this. Do we want to do both items at the same time since we're amending?
Sure. Colleagues, I think I would like to add under would be 9.4 or 9.5, excuse me, a action item on a resolution to support a sales tax referendum for school funding.
Okay, so for clarification, the motion is to amend the agenda for these two items. One would be 10.4, an item for discussion around start times of our school board meetings for the next academic year. And the other item is 9.5, a resolution around the sales tax.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Yep.
Again, to amend the agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. All right, thank you. All right, so now moving forward, if I may have a motion to approve our agenda as amended.
So moved.
Mr. Meyer, thank you. A motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Dooley. All in favor, please say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any opposed? Great, thank you. Moving to 6.0, we're moving to comments from members of the community. 6.1 is comments from students. So if there are any students in the media center who would like to offer comment, you are welcome to do so. All right, thank you. And we are now moving to comments from members of the community. And we have Mr. Salvatierra signed up. You have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Hello. All right. Dr. Gurley, members of the school board, my name is Michael Salvatierra. I am the new president of the CEA. And I'm speaking tonight because you are going to be talking later about amending the bargaining resolution and changing some employees' designation to confidential employees, therefore excluding them from the rights already afforded to them by the resolution and the benefits of the collective bargaining agreement. It's a big deal to do this, to remove an employee from the bargaining unit, taking away the rights that were agreed to and that they were expecting. First, this idea of confidential employees was all decided years ago when you formed an ad hoc committee with representatives from the CEA to discuss the terms of the collective bargaining resolution and agreed that these employees deserve the right to engage in collective bargaining. You agreed to include them in the bargaining unit. And I do understand that a case could be made for some employees to carry this designation of confidential because of the information that they are privy to, specifically related to positions that CCS takes in bargaining or the implementation of our contracts. It's very particular. But there are employees that were listed who do not fall under this category, particularly the admin tech for fine arts, admin tech for student services, the tech support specialist who works with Pat Cuomo. I ask that these positions not be considered confidential when making these changes. But what's more, these are just the ones from the list that I received from Dr. Gurley when CEA asked who are the specific people who would be removed. In looking at the edited language in the resolution, it seems to contain, like it could contain, it's kind of nebulous, other positions like admin tech for athletics. Again, why would that be confidential towards collective bargaining? I asked for a clarification exactly who it was, and I did not receive an answer. So we don't even know fully who we are talking about removing. It seems impossible to approve this change without knowing exactly whom it will affect. And it seems that these employees were not even aware this was happening to them. They were not informed about this change that will specifically and very consequentially affect them. So members of the school board, I'm asking you to not approve these changes, but at the very least to table this until we can get a lot more clarification on exactly who is affected and really determine whether they truly fit this very particular definition of confidential employee. That seems like the right and decent thing to do for our employees. There's not a hurry here. This would not take effect for another 3 years, but the process and the conversation needs to be more thorough and more transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have anybody else signed up for public comment at this time, and I don't see anybody online. So we will move on. Go ahead. So if you're wanting to make public comment, go ahead, approach the podium there. Please state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
I move this down. Hi, my name is Liz Bordonia, and I thank you all, especially for me needing to find my way here. I wrote the school board, but what I wanted to request of the school board and division leadership is to thoughtfully consider what it might look like to incorporate like a developmentally appropriate amount of like recreational time for our kids, basically recess at the elementary level. And at the middle school level, my understanding is this is often called a break time. I don't want to use a bunch of everybody else's time. I wrote you all a letter. It's like 3 pages and has a bunch of sources. But the bottom line is my understanding is that kindergarten's recess time is being halved next year. I do not have an incoming kindergartner. I worked in a combined preschool and kindergarten classroom for nearly a decade, and these children need to move. Like my children are older now, but like 30 minutes of recess, lunch at 10:30, and then no snack time or anything like that until the end of their day. I'm just very concerned that that is not setting anybody up for success, not the students, not the teachers, not anybody. Pivoting to the middle school level, like these children need to move. This past year, they had 25 minutes for lunch, the end. That was it. That was their free time. For many kids who rely on school lunch, they're using this time just to make it through the line. Like that is not adequate sort of get their willies out and get all that social contact time for these young adolescents that the middle school is serving. And I say this as a parent, and I say this as a mental health therapist who works with children and adolescents. So I'm asking that the board and division leadership really thoughtfully consider what this can look like so that we can honor our children's developmental needs, because they're not their data subgroups, right? Like these are children and youth first, and we really ignore that at our own peril. And my challenge for us as a school division is that I think we can do better by our children. So thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Glad you made the meeting. Okay, I think we're going to move forward and we are now at adoption of our consent agenda 7.0. If I may have a motion for that, please.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Need a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. Any discussion or questions around this? All right, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. And now we are at our action items, 9.1, which is our federal programs application. Come on up.
Good evening, members of the school board, Dr. Gurley. We are here as a follow-up to our meeting from last month's meeting with the signature pages for our applications for our federal programs. My colleagues are here with me tonight, but it's the same story for all four of us. The state has advised us to move forward with level funding, so we'll use our current year funding amount, putting that in for the next year application. When the revised totals are released by the state, we will submit an application amendment. But at this point, we are required to get your signature so that we can submit an application prior to the due date at the end of this month.
Thank you. We need a motion to approve this. Please.
Can we can make a motion to do them all as one.
I move to approve all of the federal program applications.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Burns. Any questions, discussion? My only question would be if you need to addend once we get that finalized budget. I mean, can we get that in a report or does that come back to us? How does that, just as an FYI, I'd just be curious if it's.
We don't, go ahead.
We always have to do an amendment.
Oh.
They always tell us to do it with level spending, and then we have to do it once the state gets the actual allocations. And that information does go to Dr. Gurley for approval and through the process. So we could get it to you, but it is a normal thing.
Okay, no, that's helpful and I appreciate that. I guess my concern would be if it was significantly less. I mean, just to have it brought to our attention. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We would give you
All
that
right.
notice.
I don't need pennies. Thank you. All right, so we have a proper motion and a second. Any other questions, concerns? If not, all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you all. All right, 9.2 is our adoption of the AP African American Studies textbook. Dr. Brown.
Hi, everyone, Madam
Mr.
Chairman, members of the board. I'm here with Mr. Bennett again to follow up on our conversation around the AP textbook adoption for our AP African American Studies course. As you know, last month we presented our findings and our recommendations to move forward with the Freedom on Our Mind text, or on My Mind text. After approval from the board, we opened it up for community feedback. For the last month, we've been receiving feedback via online or paper surveys. Now, spoiler alert, everyone loved the paper surveys. So we got 19 responses back, 5 from our second option and 14 from our first option. The feedback largely corroborated what the committee found. It's important to note, as with the slideshow that I added to our previous slide, or the slide I added to our previous slideshow, we did include students from the African American History course. They were able to come down, review both texts, and give us feedback. And so we, based on all of the feedback we've received, we want to just reinforce that the community saw what we saw, which is that we had 2 great options. One was good, one was great. And so we recommend that we move forward with the adoption of Freedom on My Mind for the 26-27 school year. I'm happy to answer any questions that may have come up between last month's meeting and today.
Madam Chair, I would like to move that we approve the adoption of the AP African American Studies textbook Freedom on My Mind as recommended by the Specialized Committee.
Thank you, Ms.
second.
Dooley. Second by Ms.
Okay.
Cooper. Okay. Thank you. Any questions, discussions? No? All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, and now we have 9.4, which is our policy updates. This is, yeah, Ms. Swift, again. Oh. I'm sorry. Nope, you're right, Miss Lewis. I was wrong. So sorry. I crossed the wrong one out. I was moving ahead.
No apology necessary.
This is our updated collective bargaining resolution, Miss Lewis. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Board Chair Torres, members of the board, Dr. Gurley. Tonight, I stand before you for an action on the collective bargaining resolution. I will say after further conversation this week, careful consideration and reflection, we have edited just slightly the confidential employee statement, and it includes excluding division administrative techs and technical or tech specialists and student services, enriching arts, and technical support departments. With that revision, I believe we can move forward with the definition of confidential employee.
Ms. Lewis, if you will, during the public comment, we heard reference to the Director of Student Activities, admin tech.
Currently, that was not listed in the summary list you provided. The staff members include members of the HR team, members of the finance team, and the executive secretaries that directly support Dr. Gurley or our chief academic and chief operation officers.
Okay, just want to make sure we clarify that. And I think Mr. Salvatierra, he mentioned this earlier, but I think just providing further clarification that the people that are being removed from, that we're recommending to be moved to confidential employees, they remain in the bargaining group for the next 3 years because they were bargained for already.
Correct. So the statement, the way it's written in our agreement, does identify these stakeholders as confidential employees, but yet we did not exclude them from the negotiation process. So given that and their participation in that process, they will officially become confidential employees once the current agreement has expired.
Is there a timeliness to this action that we need to consider? Did we need to do this?
Mr. Meyer,
I
I'm
think-
sorry.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we approve this amended resolution.
All right, Ms. Dooley made a motion. Sorry. Can I get a second? And then we'll open it up for discussion.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Richardson. Now, discussion, Mr. Meyer, go ahead.
Apologies, colleagues. Is there a timeliness question, right? In as much, I know we just changed some things. This was just changed, that we need to act today on it, or if it is tabled for, I guess would be 2 months, would that impact anything?
Well, generally, the actions are taken prior to the start of the fiscal year when it comes to collective bargaining to keep the timelines efficient and on task. So for us, July 1 would be the start. Therefore, we're presenting it in a timely fashion to have it go in effect July 1.
And the instructional specialists who are listed in the resolution, We will begin bargaining for them. We will begin bargaining with CEA next school year because that will be ahead of the budget for the 27-28 school year. I mean, so for me, it's appropriate to do it now because some people who are in the bargaining unit, specifically licensed staff, I think we need to act on that now because we will begin bargaining in the spring at some point.
And some of these changes to confidential employees are in the licensed unit?
Yep, so currently instructional specialists are covered in the licensed personnel. And we are, so they are confidential employees because they approve time. They're people who report to, and we had to make that change. For example, one of the positions this year, the instructional specialist for English language learners. She has someone who reports to her. So making this change, she still stays in the bargaining unit for the remainder of this contract. But what happens is when we start negotiating, once that contract expires, that position no longer stays in the bargaining unit because that position is a confidential, that person evaluates.
Can you explain to me why the athletics administrative tech would need to become confidential?
It's not.
It's not.
Currently not included.
It's not included.
They're not included or expected to be included.
That position is not a confidential employee.
Sorry, I mean, I'm just reading paragraph E here, and there's the definition of confidential employee. In the resolution text here, I don't know if we want to post it or not, but and maybe I'm missing something here, but it says,
Honestly, if you open it up to page 4. So I think the clarification is it says the word division and the admin text for athletics is associated with the high school, which would be a school-based position, and it's not included in this list of employees. Right here, Leslie.
all right, I'm asking about the athletics admin tech specialist. Is becoming confidential of, or am I misreading that sentence? I'm sorry. And thus I'm asking, why does that staff
Okay.
need to be confidential?
I apologize, I didn't realize I listed that out. But
Okay.
an error on my part. There's some strikeouts on there. That one's not strike out. I'm happy to provide a revision with athletic administrative text.
School-based.
It is listed, Dr. Gurley,
Yeah,
so
it's school-based. It's on our master list to not be, it's not stricken from that, and it should be.
thank you for
Yeah,
pointing
it
that
should
out.
be.
And the fine arts position, it's not listed on here, but are they falling into division admin tech, technical support specialist? Where does the fine arts person fall?
It says enriching arts on here because the Performing Arts Center is also supported by that staff person. So she not only supports fine arts, but she supports the Performing Arts Center. So I wanted to be a little more global. Because the PAC actually raises a level of money independent. So it's just a different tag for it.
Thank you.
So any other questions?
Okay, and sorry, the technical support specialists, which I guess are interpreting as information technology specialists, they're being made confidential because
No,
no.
So the school division has, when we went through the unified pay plan, we went from levels of secretary, admin, tech support, who could all be clerical support in any level. So there are some, like one of my colleagues is an admin tech, and one of my colleagues is a tech support specialist, which allows them to have growth in that arena, but they're not necessarily tech support, information tech support specialists.
Technical.
Okay, but they're being listed here as being confidential in the future because they could have access to communications or something like that with.
Absolutely. My tech
collective
support
bargaining?
specialist does a heavy lift
Right.
on
Okay.
bringing everybody on board, typing in their confidential information, producing data for me. And she is a specialist because of the complexity of the work.
That's the clarification I was hoping to hear. Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Lewis.
So for clarification, the athletic admin tech would go on that would go in that excluding list.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. It would go on that excluding list. So they would be excluded. They would not be a confidential employee.
So if I can amend the motion that I made to pass the resolution as amended with adding the admin tech, athletics admin tech to the excluded list.
Second.
I think we did.
So, okay, so we have the amendment, the friendly amendment by Ms. Dooley. Ms. Richards, you accepted that,
Well, I made the first motion, so
the
maybe
first motion?
reverse it.
I'm sorry, say that again. You made the motion, the
Correct.
first motion. So, okay, can somebody offer a friendly amendment to Ms. Dooley's motion, please? Which would include the addendum that Ms. Lewis is going to make.
I'm like some confusion.
Do we need clarification? So what the amendment Ms. Lewis was offering was to move the athletics admin tech into the parenthetical group that's being excluded. I think I can make that.
I would accept that friendly amendment.
I will make that, yes, so I am making that friendly amendment, Ms. Thacker. Ms. Dooley accepts it. Do we need a second?
Second.
Ms. Richardson, second. All right, any further discussion?
Yeah, I definitely think this is needed to, again, protect the fidelity of the negotiations. My concern is there seems to be pretty broad set of folks here that are being included, and I'm not, or you can tell me I'm completely wrong, that basically only these positions, all these positions are basically going to be touching collective bargaining. But it sounds like that there are some positions with this title that would not be touching collective bargaining. And I guess I want to know how they are not then lumped into confidential employee. If that
So-
makes sense.
So Mr. Salvatierra made a request for us to evaluate these specific folks. So when we first adopted the collective bargaining resolution a few years back, we actually defined who the people were. And at that point, what we really should have done is we should have said, these people are not, we don't bargain, we don't lump these people in the bargaining group. But we negotiated, we bargained. But what we quickly realized on our end, and mind you, everyone was still new to this. What we realized is that HR was asking people like her tech support, like her tech specialist. She was asking her tech specialist to pull this sensitive data that we then give to CEA, when the resolution specifically says people who are working with this type of data should be considered be considered confidential employees. So it was making the water very muddy on our end. Again, we were all really new to it. So when Mr. Salvatierra brought these people to our attention, we had a conversation. We had a conversation based on his feedback. We know over the next 3 years, regardless of whether we want these folks to be included or excluded, we have to figure out a way to make it happen when they would become, because that would be 4 years from now for a support person. So we just know for this specific subset, the division admin techs, the tech support specialists, the athletics, and the technical support and technical supports departments, we just have to figure out a way to do this work without incorporating them. So we essentially are transferring this either to the administrator that they report to, but this work won't happen. So we looked at their job description. So after he brought this to our attention, some of these people, well, many of these people, they do have the, like, pull the data in their job descriptions. So we're going to have to go back and we'll have to go back and amend their job descriptions so it says that they don't do these things. If this makes any, it's very complex. I mean, I feel like we figure something out each time someone brings something to our attention.
Yeah, and then I just want to recognize, and I appreciate, it sounds like you've been working with CEA on this, and that along with a lot of these things that, we're all learning as we go. So what I think this is, I'm going to say I'm okay with the amendment to modify this, and my expectation is that if we need to change it, it will be brought back to us like it was this first time. So
Absolutely. And I think in fairness, like, we know that this is the last school board meeting before the end of the school year. And I think, Mr. Salvatierra he made the request, sent the names back, but like to actually pull these people out, that was, I guess, when I checked my email this morning. So I think he sent it last evening at some point, yesterday at some point. So like, we are doing this with less than 24 hours of making that request. So.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed, please say no. All right, thank you. All right, and so based on our amended agenda, we do have a resolution, and this, gosh darn it. I'm sorry, I'm checking my list off one too fast. I'm so sorry. Ms. Swift, never mind.
Don't forget about policy. So good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Gurley. At the May school board meeting, we presented the VSBA February 2026 policy updates and the local policy updates for your review. We also attach policies IKEC, the promotion and retention, and KNAJ, relations with law enforcement authorities, with those requested changes that we discussed at the May 21st policy work session. So at this time, we request that the board take action on these policies as presented.
All right, fellow board members, I need a motion and then a second, and then we can talk about if need be. Please.
I move that we approve this set of policy modifications.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Need a second. Ms. Cooper, thank you for a second. And now open it up for discussion or debate. Any questions? Ms. Doolin.
No, I mean, I am supportive of the changes that we're making. I will vote in favor of approving these, but I do take issue with the IKEC, the promotion and retention policy, and just again, raising my concern that that is a policy that reads like a regulation. And I don't think that's appropriate. I appreciate the content of it, and I think that's what we should be doing, but it's not appropriate to be in a policy.
Thank you, Ms. Dooley. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay. I concur with you, Ms. Dooley. But also want to applaud you all for the work for that. I mean, I would like us, I guess the next time we really look at these types of things as to whether or not we can, I don't know. I'll just leave it as is, I guess, for now. So, Mr. Meyer, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I want to acknowledge that concern. I think policymaking is a art of being specific, but also leaving enough room for interpretation. And I appreciate this update for a number of different reasons, specific to the retention policy again, where we are more specific about ensuring that our English language learners and students with disabilities, have the ability and need to be treated differently. I did want to note that something that's not here in our packet, but we did discuss is an ed tech policy. And Dr. Gurley, sorry to put you on the spot, but could you discuss what the development of the ed tech policy might look like and potential changes that maybe we're expecting at some of the schools next year?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Meyer. And so at the work session, you heard, the public heard, Mr. Cuomo, outline the steps that we have taken thus far and the measures that we are going to use moving forward. Mr. Cuomo and Mr. Molchak and we are working over the course of this summer, prior to the start of the school year, later this summer, July. Our families will start to get some information about some adjustments that we are making, and some things that we are enforcing. And I know that we will have some changes that will be very specific to the middle school in terms of what the Chromebook access will look like. So they will get that information later this summer. And then at the August school board meeting, which will be prior to the start of the school, Mr. Cuomo will also do a follow-up so that the community understands what the next steps will look like. And he's essentially codifying all of the things we talked about at the work session.
But to be clear, at the moment, we don't technically have an ed tech policy, I don't think. And the idea is that we might, again, based on some of these changes and lessons learned at this time next year, be able to potentially approve something based on our lessons learned and our experiences. Is that, sorry,
Absolutely.
not to put words in your mouth, sir, but.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Well, I do look forward to that. I think we've heard from colleagues or parents and stakeholders concerns about screens, as they're maybe more colloquially known as, or ed tech use in our schools. And I want the public to know, and I guess all stakeholders to know that I think at least me personally, and I think of some of my other colleagues here, not to speak for them though, are interested in seeing the evolution of our policy, of a policy here, or not the evolution, but the creation of a policy, and some changes into how ed tech is being used in our classrooms this coming school year. So I thought that was an important part of our conversation a couple of weeks ago, and wanted to make sure that the public is aware of the follow-up and the process going forward. Thank you.
And that communication, and we do think that that communication is not only important for our families, but for our teachers, and it will give people an opportunity to have a greater sense of clarity as it relates to, how much access students have currently, and, what it will look like, moving forward.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion? All right. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now, am I back on track? I believe I am. So we did have a resolution that has been added to our agenda, and Mr. Meyer, if you would like to read this for the record, that would be great.
Chair, sorry, do we need to move to approve this beforehand, or shall I read it first? I'm in your hands.
Go ahead and read it,
Okay.
sir.
Sorry, I'm trying to bring this up. Apologies for not being ready. Okay. Bear with me here. There's a lot. But the resolution of the Charlottesville School Board in support of the 1% local option sales tax for school capital projects. Whereas the Charlottesville City School Board is deeply committed to providing safe, modern, and high-quality learning environments that foster academic excellence and support the well-being of all students and staff within Charlottesville City schools. And whereas school infrastructure and capital improvement projects, including the construction of new facilities, major renovations, expansions of existing buildings, and the acquisition of necessary sites are essential to meeting the evolving needs of our student population and addressing long-standing deferred maintenance backlogs. And whereas funding these critical large-scale capital infrastructure projects presents a substantial financial challenge that has traditionally placed a heavy reliance on local real estate tax revenues, disproportionately impacting local homeowners and small businesses. And whereas Senate Bill 66, introduced during the 2026 regular session of the Virginia General Assembly by a bipartisan coalition of legislators, establishes a universal local option authorizing all counties and cities across the Commonwealth of Virginia to levy an additional local sales and use tax of up to 1% for school infrastructure. And whereas SB 66 ensures strict accountability by requiring local voter approval through a referendum, protecting citizens by exempting groceries and essential personal hygiene products, and placing all generated revenues into a strict lockbox dedicated solely to public school capital projects or associated debt service. And whereas the authority to implement a 1% local option sales tax has proven to be an exceptionally successful, reliable, and voter-supported mechanism in other Virginia localities, passing on the first ballot by an average margin of 59.6% in every locality where it has been introduced, spanning diverse political landscapes from Halifax and Mecklenburg to Gloucester counties. And whereas utilizing a local option sales tax allows the city of Charlottesville to diversify its revenue streams and reduce the direct burden on local property owners by sharing the cost of school infrastructure with visitors and commuters who utilize the city's commercial corridors. And whereas SB 66 grants the local governing body the flexibility to structure the tax to best fit community needs, including the ability to utilize a sunset clause to align the tax directly with the lifespan of construction bonds to build maximum public trust. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Charlottesville City School Board hereby expresses its strong and unequivocal support for Senate Bill 66 and the Universal 1% Local Option Sales Tax Authority. And be it further resolved that the Charlottesville City School Board respectfully urges the members of the Virginia General Assembly and the governor to approve this vital piece of legislation to empower localities with the tools necessary to solve Virginia's school infrastructure crisis. And be it finally resolved that upon the passage of this legislative authority, the Charlottesville City School Board encourages collaborative efforts with the Charlottesville City Council to advance a local referendum allowing the citizens of Charlottesville the opportunity to invest directly in the future of our children, our schools, and our community infrastructure.
Whew, thank you. Can you read that again, please? Thank you. I appreciate you. All right, so that's our resolution, and I would love to get a motion just to take action of our vote of support for this.
So moved.
May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. Any further discussion?
Yeah, colleagues, I just bring this intention for one of the presentations we have coming up, 10.2 about the capital improvement plan. I think you all understand, but also for the members of public, that I think for us to implement a lot of the work, and you'll see the potential building updates to our local city school infrastructure here, we would need this source of funding. It is a bit up in the air, I think, on if the budget is, when the budget is approved, if there will be enough public notice period before technically the election starts, that we would be able to hold it this year, i.e. the sales referendum would be held this November 2026. But I think it is our hope with this resolution and the work of our colleagues and other jurisdictions and districts and legislators that, again, this gets approved at the state level, and that our city council colleagues will then issue the notice, and we can do the communication work we need to in order to get this funding mechanism approved. Thank you.
Ms. Burns, anything? Ms. Cooper, Ms. Richardson, Ms. Dooley? Nope. I just want to say thank you, Mr. Meyer, for kind of staying on top of this. Appreciate you and your coordinated efforts to communicate with Delegate Carlson, also City Councilor Snook and Mr. Maddox from the city. So they've all been involved in this ongoing communication. And again, I think this was just our effort to cross our Ts and dot the Is and signal our support of this. And I think Dr. Gurley and I will make sure that Mr. Sanders and the mayor and council get a copy of this.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, okay, we have a motion and a second. And thank you again for reading that. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? Great, thank you. All right, now we're items for discussion. We have 10.1, which is our Early Learning Center preschool update. Dr. Korab.
While she's coming forward, she really would like a pony.
I would like a full-blown horse, but I will start with a pony. Sam Sanders thinks I'm joking. All right, here we go. It's good to see you all, school board. I'm sorry, I forget the formalities. Good evening, school board, members of the school board. Good morning, or good evening, Dr. Gurley. It's good to be before you all today. When I was last here in the fall, I was getting the Early Learning Center work started, and can't believe that planning year has come to an end, but giving you an update on all the things that have happened. So this evening, I want to cover what has since happened with this space, what our staff has done, the learning our staff has done this year, partnerships that we have established this year and going into next year, and really what the culture is what it's going to be all about. All right, so a big piece of our space presentation and figuring out was how to make a space that has been navigatable from 5th and 6th graders. How does it make sense for 3 and 4-year-olds? And a key piece in that age group is really making sure that they know where they are in the building. And so what we've done is take the top floor. We're only going to be on the top floor of Walker, with the exception of the cafeteria downstairs, which I'll talk about in a minute. But what we did is I took the 3 primary colors, because they're some of the first colors our kids learn, and we have the red barn, the yellow barn, and the blue barn. And there is limited real estate
near bathrooms at Walker. So the classrooms are in those, the classroom spaces are in those 3 barns. And then the orange barn, when you come in off our new main entrance, which is the street level door off A2, that's where our offices are going to be, some of our related services. We have a family learning space. Our family support team is right there. And then in the back where you'll see the green areas and mudroom, that's going to be our silo. And that's going to exit to where the new playground's going to be. And so we have lots of space for storage, for toys, for loose parts, for boots and rain jackets and all that stuff in those mudrooms. So it's going to be it's exciting seeing the colors come together. The bulkheads above the doors are just painted, and where the coat racks are going to go in the hallways, it'll be the color. So kids will really be able to know where they are in the building and being able to design a building with 3s and 4s in mind, so they can learn how to navigate and they learn how to feel like where they are in the building is really huge. So staff got to do a ranked order of the rooms that they wanted, and they got to go around and look at rooms. And so they had a big hand in selecting the rooms that they wanted to be in. You'll also see, I can't tell if it's on this map or the other one. I gave staff the choice if they wanted to be with 3s, 4s, or mixed age. And so over the years, we've had a few more, our 3s, our numbers in 3s have increased, but we've also had, because we've been spread out among 6 sites, sometimes when we don't have enough 3s to warrant a whole class, we'll do a mixed age group. And as a principal, when Sunrise had mixed age classes, I saw a lot of benefits, because for 2 years you had this amazing, you got to have this partnership with this family. And that is, thinking about a parent's first entry point into school, that was huge for families. So I gave staff the option, if you want to do a mixed age class, let me know. And so I think we were at 4 mixed age classes last year, and this year we're up to 6 or 7. So it's going to be an interesting, staff got to choose and buy in, but people are really seeing the benefits. And some people are like, I think I might want to try it, but next year I just need to stick with what I know, and this is where I'm comfortable. So lots of choice and input in how we set up this building. So some exciting pieces that we're adding to the Early Learning Center. This is just a picture of so the painting started over spring break, and this is the silo area that's going out to what will be the playground. But anyways, so some of the things we really wanted to start doing, we want to think about how can we really think outside the box about what we want a preschool to look like. We have this we're in this temporary spot. We can think outside the box and start trying some things now. So the term workshop is going to be where our indoor messy space is and the former library. So if you've been in Walker before, it was the Delta Lab. It has gorgeous windows, lots of light. And if you've ever been in a preschool classroom during center time and they've had the sensory table out or they're painting, it's really messy. And if you've ever been in the Delta Lab, they have really easy to clean floors. So thinking about how do we transform a space where kids, you don't have to come there necessarily for art, but the art teacher can set up these really whole class experiences for sensory or painting work that go along with our units. And so that's what the Delta Lab's going to be. And these are the things that really excite me about being an educator. Like, what can we do with this space? What do we know that kids thrive on at this age, and what can we change it into being? And so that's going to be the Delta Lab indoor messy space in the workshop. And that space is already set up with utility sinks. So it lends itself well. And then the former library, we have a new library collection coming in. But if you've ever been to if you've been to Wild Rock, they have this big indoor space that has just so many hands-on experiences for kids. But it's really about exploratory experiences that you might not necessarily have in a typical play setting. And so I was thinking about this and what this could look like at our school. And so while that will be the workshop will be the place where we house the library collection. I want it to be where we have these really cool areas that either wouldn't fit in a classroom, it wouldn't be cost effective to put in every single classroom. For example, like there's so much research on the importance of block play. And so, but the really big block sets just are not feasible for one classroom. And so I've bought those. I bought a ginormous castle. So thinking about the importance of dramatic play, that's all going to be in that space. Getting a really intense magnifying glass that can show kids what images actually really look like and broadcasting it onto a screen rather than, the Fisher Price ones we all used in our science center. And if you were lucky, you saw a black blob. So really being able to take things to the next level. The paddock, that is our gross motor space, which was the area formerly known as the cafeteria. So we will be eating all of our meals. We're doing family style. They'll be in classrooms. But Mr. Wayne Chambers is our PE teacher, and he is really thinking creatively about what that space can look like and what the curriculum can really look like to support those gross motor pieces that align with the early developmental standards. But then that way we can use an indoor gross motor space. We have access to a plethora of large spaces outside the current Walker campus. But then also if we need a large group meeting space, we'll be able to all gather there as well. And I talked about the silo. So I'm glad to be piloting these things because as we start the design work for the new building, that's come up a lot. Like, what do you really envision this space looking like? What do you see as your dream scenario with the new building? And so these were a lot of things talked about. And so thinking about when you're bringing a staff into a new building, there's so much that they're learning and so much that they have to take in. And so having some time to really try things out and bring that into our culture as a school and how kids learn is going to be a really exciting thing. For our staff preparation work, we have done, again, they're coming from 6 different schools. So a big thing for me was everyone would know each other's name. So when we come together on August 3rd, you know who you're seeing in the building because they've known their school very well, but you might not necessarily know the staff at every single school. So I didn't want my new staff to have to really, I wanted to work on that this year. And so a big part of our culture was getting to know one another and getting to know one another by getting input and creating things, not just, what's your favorite drink or where do you like to go? So it's really about in-depth things. So there was also getting to know each other, but developing what we wanted our school to be together. So for example, they helped me give input on what we want our menu at the ELC to be, what we want for snack, what we want for breakfast, what we want to serve at lunch and give that to Carlton. And it was such a back and forth process. That the pictures there are developing our school-wide expectations, but really not just the overall words, but what does that actually look like? And what do we visualize our school looking like at different parts of the day? And what does that mean that we need to do as adults to set the tone for kids? And so I'm proud of the work that the staff did this year. They are such a dedicated group of people that have come together, and it's been beautiful to watch the culture that's been built while working on the content that we need at our school. And just an incredibly dedicated group of people. When I can, or when I could this year, I love to get the students' input. So this is us designing the playground, and I was in a Zoom meeting with VMDO, and I just happened to be in a classroom, and the kids are like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, we're picking out playground stuff. You want to look?" And they're like, "Yeah." So it was just a sweet moment of, this is something that's really important to me, to get the input of people that are going to be using this space. And it was harder with not being in one site this year, but so being able to maximize on this moment of the 3-year-olds was a blast. So looking forward to more of that in the future. A big part of our work this year, in addition to, as I said, we got to know each other, not just through making decisions about what our school would look like, but getting to know each other with engaging in some deep professional learning. And coming from the elementary level, it was such a wonderful thing as a principal to all be on the same knowledge base with ensuring that everyone's taken letters. And so knowing how much had shifted in the research, our literacy coordinator, Stacey Riedel, brought to my attention that there's an early childhood letters course. And so we were able to get on that right away. And that was such a shift in practice with really getting us all on the same understanding, because there's a lot of times that people will say, well, that's not developmentally appropriate. Well, what does that mean? And so getting on the same page and defining what developmentally appropriate, explicit literacy instruction can look like was really impactful in thinking about things where kids, for example, struggle with articulation issues. Actually, that's some tier 1 stuff, and we're going to talk about the placement of our mouths, and that's just something we do. And where you feel the breath coming out, that's just something we do when we're teaching kids how to say their sounds. So that was really exciting work that I cannot wait to take deeper, because pretty much the scope of that was us doing the course together, and then we would do some of the activities together during our staff time in the afternoon. But where I'm looking forward to taking this next year, some really explicit instructional routines, just like our primary teachers have with learning those letter names and letter sounds. What do those explicit instructional routines look like for 3s and 4s? And again, I will tell you, the energy when kids feel like they are successful, doesn't matter what their age, it is so awesome to see and to witness, and they just want to know how to be able to access and participate in their world. And so looking forward to digging into that more. The middle picture, it just really highlights another piece that came out from us for early childhood letters, was when you take that vocabulary instruction and what you really want to do with it to build background knowledge when you reread a text multiple times, and what your purpose is each time. And so thinking about the text we choose very thoughtfully, and we got to do that some, but that is really like in our schedule next year, when we have that read aloud block, we are doing a rereading. And this is the goal. This is how we want to bring up those tier 2 words. So they have exposure, and it's part of what we do. And so we're saying it 15 to 20 times, and they know what those words are. And the final piece is just how much we took away from letters about not just environmental print and having our print rich classroom, because, sometimes you walk in and you're like, there are just words everywhere, making me want to vomit. But it's really about print knowledge and what you're having kids do with the text that they're that are around them. And so we were rolling out the responsive classroom morning meeting format this year. And so we talked about, how do you bring kids into the message? You guys were talking about technology earlier. If you're going to put it on a screen, how are you going to have them interact with it? Or like the old chart paper has a lot of value in it. And so what's our purpose with that? And when I would start our staff meetings, I would model different ways that they could use that text with their kids, just the message, as a way to have them, have your students engage in that those print knowledge concepts. So it was a really exciting year. Thank you, Ms. Riedel, again for that push. So our data outcomes, I just put our 4-year-old data out here. And so I want to just draw attention. So VALS, which is the screener formerly known as PALS, yeah, it's too much. But anyways, so I just want to draw attention. I picked 3 of the most important tasks, and that was something else from letters that was really helpful. And, I remember some of my upper grade teachers, like, there's so much we need to do to be able to stay on track with the pacing guide and the standards. But in the preschool grades, you can really say, these are our best indicators, guys. So we can hit that rhyming and it's fine, but we don't need to sit and hone in on it. It's not going to be a make or break skill, whereas other pieces are. And so I pulled these out because of the research with early learners and what are some of the most important things and tasks. And so I just wanted to show the growth, especially with the beginning sound expressive. And that's asking them to show, so at the beginning of the year, we were at 68% in the beginning band, and we ended the year with 75% of our 4-year-olds in strong. And the expressive task in vowels, and that's new with vowels this year, makes them apply the letter sound. So it used to be just letter names and letter sounds. And then so the beginning sound expressive is really looking at that application piece. And so really exciting data in that this year. And as I said before, with what the professional learning, our big piece was it. We did the content together. We talked about it as a group, but I started working on my plan for next year. And the big piece next year is talking about those explicit routines and being able to give feedback on that. And then using that formative data to say, okay, this is incredible growth, or this is what I'm seeing. It's, again, speaking and shouting out my staff, it's such a hard working group of people. And so we cannot wait to dig in next year. All right. Just want to highlight some of the established partnerships and upcoming partnerships for our students. Wolf Trap out of Northern Virginia, we did a division residency this year, and they are, if you've been to a performance up there, they have also a really phenomenal fine arts education program that they run, and it connects to any kind of content you want. And so we did a lot with movement and literacy, movement and vocab, and they came and did a week-long residency in all of our literacy, or in all of our preschool classrooms in the division this year, and they're coming back next year. And it was such a great experience for our teachers. I remember for example, one resident just used puppets left and right with kids. And this one teacher said to me after, okay, I'm getting out my puppets and I'm using my puppets. They do love it. They do love it. And so just seeing the impact of practice with that in-person PL was wonderful. Book Baskets of Charlottesville, they've been around for an especially long time. We did a Bananas for Books event right before spring break at all of our schools, and we're looking forward to really building them into our family engagement plan, but also our culture with just loving books and wanting to be at books with books. Wild Rock has been a partner for a very long time and continuing to do that in the future. Looking forward to, they've done visits where they come to us. And so being all in one location is definitely going to be easier for them. Exciting news, Front Porch does early childhood music programs, and we are have that secured for the upcoming school year. So that will be in all of our preschool classrooms once a week. And Mr. Davis and I are really going to get our love of the environment and farming on together, and thinking about what those partnerships can look like for urban farming and preschoolers, especially with that being so close to with the schools being so close to one another. And there's just so much value in the partnerships when you bring our older students and our younger students together. So looking forward to that. Upcoming partnerships for our families. United Way has been, this is my first year really working with them, and they've been wonderful with just helping and supporting me figuring out this role. But then one of the things that we've been able to do is bring back mixed delivery. And so if you're familiar with preschool, when families apply, they can choose a variety of options that best fit their need, and that's how it's funded from the state. And so we were able to bring back a mixed delivery model, which if they need access to longer hours, like substantially longer hours, we've been able to secure some slots that way. PVCC is going to be hosting 4 days a week in the mornings. They will be offering language classes at the ELC. So if you saw on the map, there's a family classroom that will be for our family support team to use for workshops, but also to hopefully be able to make it easier for families to participate in language classes. So we're excited about that. The YMCA, as you know, is going to be providing after school care. And also for families, I just want to shout out Charlottesville City Schools. We are opening staff slots. And so we had, it encouraged some city staff members who otherwise wouldn't applied to apply. And then we have, I think 6 out of 6 non-resident families that are going to be taking us up on that pilot of 10. So very excited about that. So, all right, I just want to close with building our school culture. And I talked a lot about, some of those explicit literacy routines, and we're going to get into the math routines later on. But a big thing for me, I always try and capture, and this came after COVID or during COVID, like getting these moments of joy of kids just exploring their world, being in their world, and just soaking it in, and the interactions they have when you're whether you're sitting back and watching it or you're just letting them be and how they do their work. And so this is really when I think about the hands-on experiences and building background knowledge. This is what it's going to look like, and thinking about what are the different ways we can bring things to our kids. How can we bring our kids out to them? So I'm really excited to go on this adventure with my staff because it's a staff that really likes to think outside the box with me too. So it's gonna be a great place to be. And I also just wanted to connect to building our school culture and high expectations. And I think that's a really, I don't think I know. So in that vein of like getting everyone out and doing and building background knowledge, the expectation that their minds are so capable and are just primed for soaking in things at this age is one of the most empowering things that we can do for our community. And so we're going to build a school culture with high expectations of our kids, with the belief that they can and they are able. And I wanted to just use this classroom as an example. So, or just these pictures as an example of what we can do and what it really looks like. So I've talked about explicit skills, but I've also talked about those big hands-on experiences. And so this was just they were doing a unit on spiders, a lot of thematic learning, and people talk about that and it gets overused, but what does it actually look like? Everything's going to come and be about spiders. And so in this particular classroom, this was a morning message. You can see the kids circling every single S they could find. And that was at the beginning of the year. And then for the activity, they had to crawl under this web made out of painter's tape that the teacher had made with chairs, and they're finding the different insects that spiders could eat, and they had to get them. And so just seeing how these all come together, really blending academic content with thematic learning and having kids doing and interacting. And I love this picture on the left because kids are just pointing out, there's an S, there's an S, there's an S, there is an S. That's right. And this is the class at the end of the year. The teacher is wearing a Charlottesville City shirt with a book, and they're just like reading every single letter on her shirt. And that's what I really want to see. Yeah, yes, you know how to interact with the world around you. And I think about the data outcomes that this has. And so this is a 3-year-old class, and this is where I really think about the possibilities of really pushing our 3-year-old enrollment. They started the beginning of the year vowels. They were an average of 6 letter names in the entire, that was an average of the class, which would have put them in the growing band, but it ranged from 0 to 20. Beginning sound matching, so that's a different task for 3-year-olds. The average was under 1, so it would have fallen in the beginning, and then the beginning band, and then name writing was also in a 1, so also in the beginning. And so this is what the kids did every day. They interacted with letters, they learned the sounds of those, and they interacted with the content they were learning. And at the end of the year, these are all 3s. The range of letter names was 12 being the lowest to 52 maxing out at the top. And so the average of letter names was 28 in the entire class, which is an average of a growing band, which is solid. And that's just the average. The beginning sound matching had an average 2 in the growing band, and the name writing was just on the cusp of being strong as an average. And this is just a 3-year-old class. So I talk about this with just where we can go with high expectations and really giving our community a chance for a free, high quality preschool. And so I'm excited for this next endeavor with our staff, where we're headed next year. That is, I took all of our preschoolers out to the horse rescue I volunteer at, and it is just that's my horse rescue, Ellie, and she is as wild as they come, but gosh, she loves kids. So our current applications, that number is a little bit old. So the Go to Grow runs this bank of the application. So it's a little bit under that now. We're at 172 because sometimes people withdraw their application for different reasons. So we're at 172. And then now we're in the process of accepting those. So cannot wait to update you guys as we get closer to the start of the year. Next year, our school goals. I always talk about collective efficacy and how it is like the Bulls of the late 90s, but school-wide expectations, and we're opening a school. And so what a fun thing that we're all going to be figuring out together, and how humor is going to be a daily key, because goodness gracious. So we're excited to do that together. Our building maintaining a relationship is really around the first entrance into CCS, and that's both for families and students. And so just like every other school has a robust family engagement plan aligned to MTSS, we will too. And then our tier 1 instructional goals, we're going to finish our letters training, take that to the next level with what I talked about today. We're going to do a refresher on handwriting without tears. That's been the importance of handwriting, as that, like I talked about with name writing, is really solidified with, you think it's boring instruction, but actually being able to have automaticity with printmaking is a key thing for future success. And then we're really going to be digging into what high level play looks like. So I'm excited. We're here for it. And please come and visit. Any questions?
All right, open it up for questions, comments. Ms. Dooley, will start down here on the right.
So we have several Korabisms that live on in my household, even though you are not my child's principal anymore, but one of them is move with purpose. Often I'm telling Malcolm that in the morning, to move with purpose. But I think like this whole creation of the Early Learning Center embodies that concept of moving with purpose. And I think we had a lot of teachers that maybe were a little bit reticent to leave their elementary school communities that are so strong. And just to see the work and the excitement and the culture that you have started to create, and I know will continue to blossom, is just really, really exciting. So I am grateful to you. Our community is grateful to you. This idea of free, high quality preschool, should be a human right.
Yep.
And I'm just thrilled to be part of a community that's doing the work. So thank you.
Ms. Richardson.
Yes, I just want to say I'm super excited. I mean, I love the presentation. I got goosebumps. I can't wait to see everything come into reality. Of course, to piggyback off of you, Ms. Dooley, when you mentioned the free, high quality education, that just hits my heart. Like I feel it, and a woman with a plan. I see the vision, and I can't wait for the community to really be a part of that. So thank you again.
Ms. Cooper.
Sure. Great presentation. I'm also too excited because I'm a huge component of early childhood education. I think it's very important. I did have a couple of questions. I know probably about a year ago, one of the questions that I had was in reference to wraparound care. I know for a lot of families, being able to work full time is important. And so I know we talked about partnerships with the YMCA, but I would like to know where we are in that process, because I would think it would help families be better prepared to make the decision whether or not to keep their child in daycare or be able to enroll them in the early childhood education. And I was really, really, really hoping that we could have something in place, because while I think that, all of this is great, for our families to be able to access it, they need that wraparound care. Because it too is also important in today's economy for families to be able to work, to be able to provide for their family, and also be able to access the educational system. Another question, well, not really a question, but just
Well, I guess it is a question in reference to, I see that we have a lot of partners. And so I just want to make sure that like we have some systems or processes in place to track how these partners are like doing and how are they showing up and like what are some of the results from the partnerships? Because I think that partnerships is important. And I think that the community needs to see that all of the work that the partnerships are doing in the school and how that reflects in the educations of our children. And also, I know that we have that PVCC is coming in for some ESL classes. But what about classes for families that maybe struggling to read or need to get their GED? Is that an option for adult education for families that need that level of support as well? Thank you.
YMCA is set up to open this fall. It's right on there with our enrollment. And it says if you want to apply, here's the link that opened May 4th for our families. With the current site, what they can do with because their licensing is much different and much more stringent than ours. So the licensing will be for 4-year-olds. The newer facility will be our new facility will be able to the licensing will be much easier for our 3s as well. Regarding other pieces with wraparound care, that's exactly. So the way the state operates, the VPI grant is so everything that United Way coordinates in the area, they can, when they apply through the Go to Grow model, they can apply for different pieces and to meet the needs of their family. And so being able for Charlottesville City to partner with the mixed delivery this year, which we have not had in, I think it was 3 years, they said, to get those slots back is huge because if a family really wants to be in the ELC, but their work starts at 6 a.m. and they can get a slot up at the Early Learning Center up by the new Martha Jefferson, that is the spot where they need to be that best meets the needs of their family. And that's a 12-hour place. So yeah, being able to partner with them to get those slots is a huge win for our community to be able to do that. We're starting manageable with the partnerships with PVC specifically. This is a course offering they do in their catalog. So it is just an English language class, and that was something that they had identified as a need. But I think in the future, I know Dr. Johnson is our point person for our division with evaluating how those partnerships are going. But being that we had a lot of space at Walker, we really wanted to be able to see if that reduced a barrier for involvement for sure. So it's language classes, but it's all right in there together. And the GED, I'm not, again, we're just starting with starting slow, but yeah, the future for sure. I hope I answered all your questions.
Yes, thank you.
Ms. Burns?
I thank you so much for the presentation. This is really exciting. I'm happy to see you in this role. I'm happy to see you happy. Happy looks good on you.
Thank you.
And we're excited to have you in this role. A question I do have is what type of marketing or communications are we doing just with the community in general, whether they have someone that could attend the Early Learning Center or otherwise? I know people saw Walker was closing and then they were like, but what's happening there? So just wondering what type of marketing or communications happening in the community.
So I'm using this as an opportunity to rebrand. So we've done, you might have seen our banners or signs around town rather than previously it had been the United Way Go to Grow applications, but trying to think about things in what's going to catch someone's attention. So let's use the Colt with the Charlottesville City logo. So we tried that this year. Those will just be our standard practice moving forward. We're using I guess the normal media channels. I was on the NBC 29 talking about enrollment. And then there was another time when the enrollment, so I'm using the media channels, but that's something that's definitely an area to grow in next year. And I'm looking forward to, and we're all in once, bringing the community partners in and how do we get the word out in your neighborhood? We definitely did a lot of canvassing in neighborhoods this year with our signs, but being more connected will definitely, and that's, you brought up a good thing. I'm wondering, Ms. Burns, what is our actual enrollment footprint in our area. We're all experiencing our smaller schools. And so trying to get a good handle on what our actual numbers are. An interesting trend is, even though we've had 3-year-olds for a long time, but even before it was a state funded program, we didn't have as many 4s as we had slots last year, but it balanced out because we had more 3s. So I'm hoping to really continue to push the pieces for our 3-year-olds to apply to, and it's not just something for 4s. But this is something that your child can access when they're 3.
Thank you. And are we working with our community housing programs just to make sure those folks are getting the word out in that neighborhood?
We did the canvassing in those neighborhoods too, but that's like, I think as we're in the new location, that being able to be more centralized with hosting that and getting the word out will be easier.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Again, very informative. You said you're like 172 at the moment.
Applications.
Okay. How many slots do we have?
We'll have about 200.
Okay, so we have more space if needed. Okay, so we're meeting all needs as currently.
If they choose to,
listed.
if they choose to accept right now, yes. But so sometimes this has been a big piece of my learning this year. There's a criteria to be accepted into a preschool. So like the idea that even Charlottesville City is funding slots themselves to have staff come is just a huge, huge shout out to our area. So we have so many slots that are funded from the state. And they have to meet a certain criteria in order to be able to fill those spots. So every now and then might have had families that have applied for preschool that might necessarily qualify outright or qualify with something called local criteria. So it's not an automatic acceptance, if that makes sense. It's a criterion-based program.
And a lot of that I think is on income levels or.
A lot of different pieces. That is one of them. That's one of the big categorical 4. But one of the things we also look at is something called the local criteria. And a local criteria is what are factors specifically in our community. So 2 big changes this year is looking at you might not meet the federal poverty level, but they've included the ALICE income rate. And then there is something from the Economic Policy Institute this year that we've included our local criteria, where they average out the cost of living, which is housing and childcare, and you can insert it into a calculator. And so depending on that rate, when we do our income verification reports, we can see you might not be an outright qualifier, but because of where we do live, you are qualifying for preschool. And so I think this question jogged, piggybacking to something that Ms. Burns asked, like getting the word out, apply for preschool. If you live and you think, like, childcare costs are astronomical in this area. And so when in doubt, apply. I think that's going to really help get the word out too.
Yeah,
Those
sorry, I
2
was
things have
kind
really
of getting into that because, we had talked about this before about trying to open up to all incomes to a certain extent and/or, make sure we're maximizing this opportunity for as many people as possible. And again, I think exposing as many families to our wonderful institution as possible from the beginning. So, thank you. And I do hope, colleagues, we can continue to expand that amount, and I guess we'll learn about that more here in the next presentation. You did mention that unfortunately, though, it sounds like our building's not there's some kind of limitations that the 3-year-old licensing for the YMCA is that overcomable or?
It has to do with the number of bathrooms and changing stuff. It's a different licensing. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand it's a different licensing, but so unfortunately, we're not going to have as many slots as we would like for the aftercare because we don't have enough bathrooms. Does that understand? Okay.
I guess. Yeah. But like on the flip side, we have more slots than we ever have for after school care. So
Okay, yeah,
that's
I'm
what I'm
getting at
looking
hopefully
with.
is that I want us to be able to, anybody who wants an aftercare slot, also a slot. So, if we need to figure out a bathroom situation somehow, I guess. I hope.
And just to be clear, like the licensing requirements when you get into other, like the number of bathrooms that have to increase at that site are substantial, as well as like changing places. Yeah. Changing tables.
Okay.
Yeah.
And these are some of the things that we knew going into the Walker site, going into a very dated building, that these would be some of the limitations, but they're temporary.
Yeah.
They're temporary because like she said, like Dr. Koreb said, once we get into the new building, we can account for way more bathrooms and classrooms.
Changing area, yeah.
And changing areas.
I'm excited. Thank you for all the work. I really love of course, the letters work and the data and just the intentional play. And I want to be a 3 or 4-year-old. So anyway, thank you. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. And next up, CIP. Work group update.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Gurley. We have a very exciting CIP update for you this evening. And we're very fortunate to have with us our city's Deputy Director for Public Works, Michael Goddard, our longtime partner in all the progress we've been making with our facilities. And so he's going to take point on this presentation, but both myself and Dr. Isley, who are involved with the work group for the master planning, are available to answer questions as needed. So, Mike.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the school board, Dr. Gurley. As Kim said, Mike Goddard, Deputy Director of Public Works for the city of Charlottesville. Coming at you with another CIP update. This is going to be a bit of a long one because we have a lot to discuss. So here we go. First off, I'll give you a little bit of an update on our funding overview. These are things that are funded presently in the CIP. First of all, the priority improvement funds continue to be funded at $1.4 million a year. If you've been around a while, you'll call that the modernization fund, but we've broadened our scope a bit on that. We have the Sunrise, Jackson Via, and Tall Oaks roof replacement projects, each funded to $1.5 million over the next 3 fiscal years. We'll do those one at a time. We have the school's HVAC maintenance fund being increased to $1.25 million from $750,000, which is what it had been for quite a while. And of course, this is to be approved, but this is in the draft. Lump sum remains at $1.9 million for the foreseeable past and future. And that's what we do. That's what we use for a lot of our quick moving, smaller projects, but ones that are bigger than really small stuff, if that makes sense. And then we have funding in the current budget for the pre-K center, but that's a bit of a moving target, and I'll talk quite a bit more about that as we go on. We also have some projects that we're collaborating with the Office of Sustainability on. We have the CHS and CMS solar installations, both due to be installed in fiscal year 27. So that's very exciting because those are 2 very large solar arrays that we are planning to install. We are also planning to install a smaller solar array on the Sunrise roof once the roof is replaced. So our plan going forward is to replace the roofs on those 3 schools I mentioned earlier, and then after each one's replaced, come in with a solar project. We also have a project to replace lighting, make LED lighting upgrades in 3 of our elementary schools, as well as K-Tech in the next 2 fiscal years. An update on, we'll go kind of project by project with some of our more important things. There are a lot of smaller projects in the background that I won't spend a lot of time on because there are just so many. But first off, one that's been a pressing issue and something that I've reported on dozens of times at this point. The Charlottesville Middle School is on time and on budget. We're expecting that to be finished this summer for a fall open to a full new campus. So we're super excited about that. I'm sure there will be a ribbon cutting, and I'm sure I'll come in with lots of photos, but we'll move on to the more pressing matters for now. We're also working on the Trailblazer modernization. So this is using those priority improvement funds. This is the final project. So when this program was conceived in 2016, I believe it was, the plan was to go through each of the elementary schools and make an update to those and then move on from there and sort of reassess once we got through them all. Some things have come up in the meantime that were more pressing, but this is the final elementary school modernization. This project includes some internal breakout spaces and intervention spaces, some targeted academic support spaces, and also intercom upgrades, painting, and new signage. Again, that's a $1.4 million project, and we're planning to do that this summer. Summit Elementary School's window replacement continues on as we go through and replace all those failing windows. Active listeners will have heard about this one quite a few times, so I won't belabor it, but the windows were going bad, so we're putting in new windows. We have the Sunrise roof replacement project. That's the first of our 3 elementary school roof replacements. That one's coming this summer. We're expecting about a $1.5 million project there. And then we are planning to do some work on the Greenbrier restrooms. Also, longtime listeners will remember that this was a topic of conversation for several decades. So we're happy to, and I'm sure Ned Mickey will be happy to see that this is getting some love. So this project is intended to do something like what we've done at Charlottesville High School and what we're doing at CMS to create some gender neutral bathroom space and to increase the capacity of the restrooms and also just make them nice and new. So that one we're planning on getting done this summer as well. And then the Walker Temporary Pre-K Center, and I won't talk too much about this because you just got a whole presentation about how this is going. But I'll note that the project that we're working on is mostly putting in the playground space outside, so an age-appropriate playground space that's on grade and easy to access for the children. Because watching 3-year-olds walk all the way to the lower play space would be, well, that'd be their whole day, I think. Maybe call it a field trip. And then next we have the Charlottesville Early Learning Center project. So there are a lot of moving parts on this one, and I'm going to dedicate quite a bit of our time to that. So I'll start with a little bit of a history lesson for anybody who's listening that hasn't been following. We originally conceived of the Charlottesville Early Learning Center as a project for the Rose Hill Drive side of the project location, or the Walker campus, I should say. And our original plan was to remove the gym and build the school in that location. Then we all were made aware of the opportunity to acquire the FEI site from the federal government. And we all got very excited when we were selected to receive that site, and then very unexcited when we were unselected to receive that site. But out of that process came some new thinking about some needs that the school division had that we were not fully aware of. And so those kind of came on board as part of our thinking process. And then we got another opportunity to get a site, this time from the University of Virginia. This is the Oaklawn property, which is kind of that little section of land that's adjacent to Buford and the pool, sorry, CMS and Smith Aquatic Center. And we're still working on that. That bird is not in the hand. It is still in the bush. But I think, well, I can say that we've decided that the best way to play that is to move back to Walker and keep moving, because that's a slow moving process. We don't know at this point what the resolution will be on it. We're hopeful, of course, but you know, time waits for no one and time is money. So we have moved back to Walker with our thoughts and dreams for the CELC. So this is the existing condition. We have the A building, B building, and C building. C is the gym building, and we'll focus quite a bit on that one. And then there's crow. That crow is not a bird; it's the pool. For people who don't live in the area, maybe don't know. So we originally conceived of a scheme, we'll call it Scheme A now, that essentially removed the pool and renovated the auditorium building, building B, and left C where it was at. And Crow was involved in maybe some future expansion plans. We believe at this point, to the best of our ability to judge, construction is a wild place right now, but we think this is about a $42.5 million scheme. The good things, or the things about that project that are notable, is that the front door to the Early Learning Center is down on the lower part of the site, so your bus loop is down at Rose Hill. Building A is left as it is. Building B is renovated to be part of the Learning Center. Building C is demolished, and there is no replacement gym. The upper part of the site is left alone for another use, such as swing space for elementary schools, and I'll get eventually to why that's important. No net loss of parking with this scheme. The challenge from my perspective is that loss of gym, though, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Out of the process of going after the FEI site, a lot of needs were, as I said, uncovered. And we realized that if we didn't have a gym, we didn't have all these other spaces, the B building, some of what we thought we might need to do in the future might be limited. And again, we'll get into a little more detail about what those things will be a little bit later, but to my mind, it didn't make a lot of sense to demolish a lot of good buildings, well, a lot of buildings, in order to build another building if we could avoid it. So the scheme that we moved towards was this Scheme B, we'll call it. This one moves kind of the front door to the upper part of the site, kind of close to where you would now go into Walker if you parked in the little parking lot up at the top on Gentry Lane. Buildings B and C were left as is. We were and are aware that building C, if we continue to use it, will need some waterproofing work. There's some water that comes under the floor there and causes some buckling of the wood. So that would need to be something we address if we were to go with this. And then building A, again, could be used as a swing space for elementary schools in the future. Gentry Lane would need to be closed in this approach. So Gentry Lane, whether you know it or not, is not a street, it's a lane, it's school's property. So we would be able to close it by right if we wanted to. The challenge, though, is that in order to do that, you have to have a place for vehicles to turn around. And in order to have that turnaround space, you need a little bit of retaining of the earth, which can get challenging and expensive. And overall, we think that this would lose us 39 parking spaces on the upper part of the site that we would have to account for at some point in time. Also important, sorry to go back to Scheme B momentarily, we got pricing data on this, and it looks like about a $60 million project with some pretty significant question marks and concerns as we move into the future design of the project. And so we started scratching our heads and thinking. We worked with BMDO, and actually they kind of pulled us around on this one, I'll admit. And they kind of worked quietly in the dark on a Scheme C, which I will also admit I wasn't as excited about when I first heard about it, but when I got read in, I actually am pretty pleased with the work they did. Recalcitrant as I am, I can be turned. So Scheme C, This is a $51 million project, we think. Now, this scheme is about a week and a half old, so we don't know what we don't know on this, but logically speaking, this seems like a much less expensive approach than B, and also logically a little bit more than A. The front door is once again down on Rose Hill. Buildings A and B are left alone. Building C is demolished, but we're putting in a new middle school sized gym along with the new early learning center. And building A, again, is usable as a elementary swing space and no net loss of parking. So I'll go into a little more detail about each of these because I know those site plans are a little hard to read and probably still are, but do my best. So this is the existing condition. I won't spend too much time on this because you can go walk around it if you like. Scheme A, this is the original scheme that involved demolition of the gym and incorporation of the auditorium building. This is what that looked like. Scheme B, this was the terrace design, and I think most people consider this the current design. But as you can see on the sort of left-hand side of the plan, there's a bus turnaround. All of that involves a retaining wall that pushes that hill up even higher than it is now. Also, we're kind of nestling the building into that hillside that's currently kind of the upper parking lot. That's challenging. It's also challenging to build the terraced outdoor play spaces, not impossible. And actually, I was pretty excited about it conceptually. I'll admit that. But it is not the cheapest way to build a building, that's for sure. And there are some other site considerations when you look at Scheme C. So we'll move to that one. Scheme C, I think, is a little more logical use of the space. One good thing about this approach is that upper classrooms and lower classrooms can move out into outdoor space at grade. So we're not building over the top of anything. It's just kind of the current condition in terms of grading, and we're taking advantage of the site instead of kind of fighting it. A lot less retaining is required with this approach, and we don't lose as much parking, which I know we don't like to talk about parking, but it is a fact of life. So this is kind of the layout for the three schemes. So to sort of summarize, there are higher construction costs for the terraced approach, which is approach B. There are higher maintenance costs for that same approach. We see there being complications and limitations with the terraced outdoor play spaces, most notably that they are as big as they are and you can't really expand them or change them. We have more costly parking and traffic considerations to deal with and we're required to. We don't have any way of getting around those issues besides putting money into them. And then there are costs to maintain the Walker Gym as a usable facility. So as much as I hate to take down a usable building, I think when you see how we can come to a middle approach that is, I think, fairly reasonable cost-wise and still maintains a gym, my recommendation would be to go with Scheme C. I think there will be an opportunity to speak to council about that, and I'll answer any questions anyone has. But at the time, you know, I've given you what I know, and you can make your own assessments after that. So looking ahead, and I'll revisit a little bit this topic because there's more that ties into that decision-making process. But looking ahead to 2027, these are the big things we've got moving. We also have the Martin Luther King Performing Arts Center renovation coming up. So seating and lighting in there. We are planning another restroom renovation project as soon as we can get there in this building. We've heard nothing but positive about the one we did before. So more of a good thing, I think, is a good thing. And then Summit Elementary office visitor vestibule project. That's something we've been having having been asked for quite a while, and I think we're finally ready to sort of put that on the reach goals for the coming year. So that's a lot. We're quite busy working on schools projects. So we talked a little bit earlier, and you all voted on a encouraging approach to this 1 cent sales tax that we are hopeful. Actually, we're, for the first time in my time with the city, I'm actually believing this is something that could happen at the state level. So if you were listening or watching sometime, I think it was in the fall of last year, James Freas and I gave a presentation at a joint session of council and school board where we laid out kind of a long approach to what we think is possible or maybe even necessary for our school buildings. And we were tasked with, or I was tasked with, putting together a working group that would sort of look to the future and come up with a plan. So Councilman Snook said very astutely that we need to have a plan for what we're going to be telling voters that we're going to do with this money if we put it to them as a referendum, right? And that wasn't the only reason for what we were doing in the working group, or have been doing in the working group, but that was a big driver for getting that group together. And also just sort of assessing what's the condition of our schools generally, what's it going to cost to get them to where we would all like them to be. So after quite a few meetings of the group and kind of going through, what we all agreed was the goal for our schools, which is better learning spaces, more modern learning spaces, more healthy and energy efficient learning spaces, we came up with a draft plan for the next approximately 16 years of construction and funding. So this is not going to be readable to anybody, I wouldn't imagine, but it is part of the packet and you'll be able to see it. But I'll point out the important elements. So some of these things in the beginning years, 2026, 2027, are already kind of baked into the plan. The pre-K center is coming up. We don't have CMS on here because that horse has left the stable. Pre-K center, we think, is pretty much on the same path, one way or the other. I'm fairly confident that we're going to be building that project a year from now. And then we heard some interesting new thoughts from Dr. Gurley about the desire for CHS to be improved. And, I think we had all, the legacy sort of thought process was to work through the elementary schools. And CHS, because, not to go on too much of a side trip on this, but a lot of the early conversations were informed by things like our assessment of capacity of the schools that came out of the 2016, 2015 timeframe. And CHS, frankly, was the least needy at that time. So that's kind of how the paradigm was structured. Dr. Gurley had a different thought, and I think it's a good thought. How is a student going to feel coming out of the middle school into CHS? The middle school, if you haven't been there, is a really, really nice school. Really stands head and shoulders above everything else we've got, I would say. So when you move to CHS as a student, it's like going back to the 70s. And there are some spaces at CHS, I walk around and there are some exceptions to the rule. I mean, we've done some renovation work over the years. I think of the big glass panels in the commons that, that's nice space. I like it. But we don't have enough natural light in the classrooms. We don't have enough flexible and collaborative space. The furnishings are kind of, typical 1970s, 1980s style furnishings, more or less. There are also some needs that were identified by our various side trips about getting FEI and Oak Lawn that CTE are learning opportunities or something that schools are interested in. And that's not something I'm an expert in. So that was new information to me that came out of this working group. But, my first thought was, doesn't K-Tech take care of a lot of that stuff? But, I was informed that K-Tech's a big commitment. Not every student wants to go down the K-Tech route. Some want to stay in the school for more of their day and just have dip their toe in these different, for instance, biomedical science was pointed out as something. I'm not an expert. I don't know much about it, but I'm happy to oblige in making space for it. And getting all the restrooms to current standards is something we're all very interested in. So that's how we ended up kind of reversing our paradigm and putting CHS next on the sort of flow chart of work that we do. Now, that's a big lift because anything that you do to this school just because of the raw square footage, I mean, that's a multiplier. So your cost per square foot, that's how we think about things. Even if it's a very low cost per square foot, this is a big campus. So, I know Dr. Gurley would love to have a new school. I think we all would love to have a new school, actually. And so whether that's possible financially, I do not know. That's not a decision for me to make. But what I will offer is that there's a potential to take this school and do something. We learned a lot from the middle school project. And what we did there was we built a new volume. We occupied that volume, and that freed up some space and allowed us to go into the part of the school that we weren't using and modernize it, right? So CHS is kind of a tripartite arrangement of 3 wings. If we were to have a new volume or some way of offloading that student capacity into a new space that could be used in the future for something like what we're talking about, then that would free up each of the wings. And in the same way that we did the roof in 3 parts, we could do the school in 3 parts. Because that is kind of a manageable scale of project for a city of our size, I think. We have experience in that realm. So that's kind of the approach that we're recommending coming out of the working group. And then from there, we flow into the elementary schools. And we can, obviously, this is a very preliminary plan. This is just our first scratch at what we think it makes sense. And I think a lot of this, things change over all of this time. But I think if we have a funding source like the penny tax, we have a realistic likelihood of managing all these projects. It won't pay for all of them. Stuart did some quick math on this. It looks like about $475 million worth of projects there on the list. And that flows out for quite a ways. It also doesn't include all of the escalation that's going to happen. So, who knows what the dollar's worth that far out. But we do have a reasonable way of funding all of the work that we're trying to do. So with that, I think, I come back to the project at the Walker campus, the CELC project. And I think about, the idea of using that space as a swing space for all of these elementary projects, right? So if you wanted to completely, the problem we have traditionally had besides money in Charlottesville with our elementary schools is that you've only got the summer to attack the schools. Where do those students go if they're not in that school? So we've chipped away and we've tried to do little things, but we don't have the capability to really modernize an elementary school in a summer. There's no way. And the summers are only 2 months long at this point, really, anyway. So by availing the Walker A building and maybe even the B building, we have a place to put students for a year while we do their elementary school renovations, and we go through them sequentially like that. And so for a 6-year period of time, more or less, we're using that campus as an elementary school. So having that gym makes a lot of sense for those 6 years. And that kind of ties in why I think I would really support that C plan, having a gym. Gyms are never a bad thing to have anyway. I think we always find use for them. having one attached to CELC will always be a useful thing. And it lends a lot of flexibility to the space. So that's kind of what I have to share. I assume with all of that, there might be some questions.
Thank you, Mike. As always, Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Goddard. And for colleagues, I've had the privilege of sitting on our CIP subcommittee, and working with our team and Mr. Goddard's team, and it's been a pleasure. Process-wise, I just want everybody to know, I think we were meeting once a year when I first joined, and now we're going to be up to quarterly. So again, I want to thank city staff and the city leadership, the counselors, for helping prioritize this. I do think we're seeing prioritization by our other city leadership. I don't know, source that I would give Lloyd credit for saying we need to move and get this package together, but I'll give him some of the credit. Mr. Goddard, I think you deserve some of that credit too. To my questions though, and I think we had talked about this. I just you mentioned this at one of your last points, getting to the CHS, or sorry, I think it goes to both this plan for how we might do this over 16 years to renovate everything, but also the scheme. Again, you're talking about tying it back to Walker, or sorry, the pre-K center. If we were not to be able to use the Walker upper building and we're going to do all this elementary school, what would we have to do? Would we have to put modular classrooms in place and we would just move those around, or how would that work?
Yeah, I think there's one of two approaches we could take. One is to, any approach involves modular classrooms unless we've got the capacity to rezone the school district temporarily and constantly rezone, which I doubt anyone's got any appetite for, but y'all are the decision makers on that one. Fortunately for me. But yeah, otherwise it's a trailer village. You know, we put a bunch of temporary school buildings out in some place unknown, either on the individual sites, and we keep moving them from site to site. I wouldn't recommend that because they're going to need plumbing. So we're going to have to replumb at every site. They'll need overhead coverings between buildings. They'll need ADA accessible sidewalks between buildings. Yeah, I mean, that in itself would be a project that I would have to assign to a project manager with a significant budget. And my concern with that is it's a project that we would have to do. It's also, I think, irresponsible from a sustainability standpoint.
We had talked about that. I want you to bring that out because I do want folks to understand as we think about that Walker space and then how we build a pre-K center. I think, and we're going to hopefully do all this, that other option B there is not something I think we want to consider. So I think it does make a lot of sense to, again, keep that Walker space as a flex space. One other thing, and then I won't, because again, I've seen this, but one new slide I hadn't seen recently was you were talking about the 2027 projects. And my question was, are those already in the CIP budget, or do we have to get those in this coming budget?
Let me run. I think those are all in, but I don't want to lead you astray.
I would love for you to tell me, yes, they're already budgeted.
Let me make sure, but yeah, I think they're all.
No, I was talking about the 2027 build out. Yeah, like very excited to hear that we're gonna update the MLK Center.
Is that more than seats and carpeting in there? What are you doing in there?
Lighting. Yeah.
It's the systems and the seats and the systems, seats, carpet, curtains. It's a very nice renovation. We've worked closely with the PAC manager who just moved on, but and Aaron's team. So we're really excited.
Yeah, I think it's slide 21, but yeah, I was happy to see those being listed. And colleagues, if you have other
Thank you.
ideas, please, hopefully it won't take as long as the decades to the Greenbrier bathrooms, but
Yeah, these are all using existing funding sources, mostly the priority improvement project funds.
awesome. Thank you.
Ms. Burns?
I don't have much, just thank you for your work, and Ms. Torres and Mr. Meyer for sitting on that committee and leaning into what we've talked about over the last few years, and Dr. Gurley for your vision. I appreciate the thought and intention, to have such a wonderful new middle school and then to bring our children back to 1970. That makes sense. So I appreciate the thought and the intentionality there and how we just build excitement for our learners every stage along the way. So thank you.
Ms. Cooper?
I don't have much either. Thanks for the presentation. I love seeing the drafted plan. And I'm glad that the Summit Vestibule is on that to be renovated. That's exciting. That's it. Thank you.
Ms. Richardson? No? Ms. Dooley? Mr. Goddard, thank you. As always, quick question, just in looking at scheme C, where, I think I know where the gym would be on that slide, and it's slide 19.
I don't know, might have been deck.
Is that little L shape?
There we go. Can you ask that question one more time?
Yeah, where the gym would be.
Oh, the gym,
in
the
that
gym is
schematic.
kind of right up against,
Right there.
yeah, squeezed in between, where the Crow Pool is and the auditorium building.
And then what do you all need from us? I mean, I remember kind of going through the process before for the middle school and like just how much discussion there was with council as far as landing on which, like, we hear your recommendation and it seems to make sense. But what do you need from us?
Well, there are a few simple facts. One is that we don't have all the funding for any of these schemes in the CIP presently. So we'll be making a request, and I don't want to freak anybody out with that. We always knew, I spoke to Sam when we originally funded this, and we had no idea how much this building was going to cost. So we threw a number at it, and as expected, the number's short. Especially considering all the construction escalation we've seen since. So there's going to be a CIP ask. I think the move towards Scheme C is a nod to the fact that $60 million is an awful lot to be asking for. And there are enough unknowns in that project that it could be higher than that by the time we actually put it in the ground. So I would say support for the CIP ask would be appreciated. I suspect that we will get support, but the world changes every day, so we'll see. And I think I think, to be honest, school board has done the heavy lift over the years. I mean, I too was in those rooms back when we were doing the middle school, and I didn't honestly believe it was going to happen until the day that it got voted in. So, but I don't see that as, I think we're all on board. There's $35 million already budgeted for this project. So, I think, if we could get that 15 million a year, which is what that penny tax would generate for us, we think that'd be really helpful. And so I appreciate y'all's efforts to that end. Yeah, I think just continued advocacy and support.
Great, thank you. Any other questions, colleagues? All right. Oh, yes, sir.
We're almost in the second half of the year, and I see, if I was looking at your Gantt chart there, in slide 23, it does look like we're going to continue to evolve this design work, and we could be moving dirt in, I guess, first half of 2028. Are we still feel pretty good about that? Again, assuming that we get the budget support decision this winter?
Tentatively, yes, but I think we've got a lot left to figure out. I will say that I don't think that our choice about which approach we take affects our timing. That was one of the things we confirmed with VMDO, was that if we choose C, which is very underdeveloped at this point, it's just, I mean, that's the whole stack of project drawings right there. So, but they're confident that because of it's a more simple approach. So I think that they believe that time-wise, it doesn't make any difference. I think there have been some impacts, we've the FEI, the Oak Lawn. I think so, yes, but we'll continue to talk once I know a little bit more.
If I may. A key thing with the timing is that all the work that Elizabeth and her team has done around what the classrooms need to be like, what common spaces need to be like, that's all transferable to the insides of these buildings. VMDO has made that clear. So it's not like there's so much work that's been done that is useful regardless of how the building actually sits on the site, and these grade things and stuff that are so important for access to the outdoors and things like that.
Yeah, I'll just say, and I think we've said this in the subcommittee meetings, as you know, that we'd like to see this move sooner. And again, as you mentioned, costs go up, so, what happened with, again, the FEI building, and it was unfortunate. And, the Oak Lawn, we spent some time reviewing all that. And again, which is, I think, valid review processes, but at the same time, like, we need to kind of move and not have like we had with the CMS building, kind of balloon. So thank you for your continued efforts.
Yeah, you can trust that we're going to move as quickly as we possibly can. That's been the direction from Sam, is, go with all haste. So we will do so.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have 10.3, which is our 2026-27 policy updates. These are right? Am I right? Thank you.
All right, good evening. 'Tis the season for policy. So tonight I'm presenting the VSBA May 2026 policy updates for first review. The updated policies are provided in a red line format with new language shown in red and deleted language shown with a strike through. The attached summary table also describes the proposed changes. Due to some new state requirements, you will see that VSBA has provided member divisions with 5 new policies to ensure that we remain current and aligned with legal requirements. And so the superintendent recommends that the board receive these policy updates for review this evening with action requested at the August 6th meeting.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Board members, I don't know if you have any questions at this point, but we've got a little bit of time to look through these, and then we'll come back in August. Everybody okay with that? All right. Thank you, Ms. Swift. And I guess if we have, if you're doing some summer reading and have questions, we can go ahead and email you and Dr. Gurley our questions.
Yes,
All
absolutely.
right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and now we have the other addition to our agenda, which is item 10.4. I don't know, Ms. Dooley, if you want to introduce that, or I will. This was basically an oversight, I guess, on my part. We had mentioned that we would review or revisit the discussion or the start time to our meeting. So for public sake, I guess since January, we have pushed our meeting time to 6 from 5 o'clock, and we agreed that we would do that through the end of this academic year and then revisit that. So thank you for the reminder. And here we are. So I'm going to open it up for just discussion and any thoughts that board members might have on reverting back to the 5 o'clock start time versus keeping it 6, and just how you're feeling about that. Anybody care to start? Mr. Meyer, you want to start? Go to the left. Okay, he's nodding at you, Miss Dooley.
Oh, no, I am interested in hearing from colleagues. My preference is to start earlier. I think that, if we're thinking about, is there increased public engagement? I think we see increased public engagement when there is a topic on our agenda that is of interest. And so that to me hasn't been a real driving difference in engagement. We are still, I think, being pretty liberal in our allowing the public to participate by Zoom and give comment by Zoom, which is not universally done. But I also appreciate that, my schedule is more flexible than some others. So I do want to hear from colleagues just to hear what the earlier start time, the impact. I also am sensitive to staff and staying for meetings after a full workday. When we go late into the night, that they are turning around pretty quickly to come back to work. So those are my initial thoughts.
Thank you. Ms. Richardson?
Yeah, I would say that if we remember, I said, let's keep it at 5. If it's not broke, don't fix it. But I do appreciate transparency and trying out a new time. I do think about administration staying late when we have long meetings and then having to come back, and then, they present to us and they're here for us, but we need to think about them as well. And if we're able to be flexible to meet the time that we were at originally, I would not mind going back to the 5 o'clock time as well.
Thank you. Ms. Cooper?
I'm open to whatever the majority agrees upon.
All right, thank you. Ms. Burns?
Sure. I also appreciate that I have a pretty flexible schedule and make the time work. It's only once a month. And so I think, to echo Ms. Dooley, the community shows up for the things that they are really passionate and important about. And I hope they'll continue to do that regardless of what time we meet. I know we've heard from some teachers that the later start time is harder for them, that they appreciate the opportunity to be able to just come straight here after they're done, and just want to be sensitive to that. So I'm agreeable to really what the group is, but 5 is fine. I'm even, take the difference between the two of 5:30. But really just interested in the group and what folks are able to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Myers?
Yes, well, I want to appreciate that we did test drive, you might say, a different schedule or later starting time. I still believe and prefer a 6 p.m. I do think, and I would agree with you, Ms. Dooley, that I think what is on our agenda drives a lot of the community participation. However, I do think it is easier, and I think we saw that for some of the earlier commenters, you might say, in January, February, for folks who need to get home and get their kids fed and then be able to attend, and or time between getting off of work at 5 o'clock because they have a very hard 9 to 5, and then be able to come in person and provide their comment. So I would like to keep it at the 6 o'clock. I do worry about the length of our meeting and getting it late, and so I am conscious of that. I do think, and I've spoken about this before, we can think about how we receive information on agenda items and from the staff, and we're seeing more written responses and written board reports, which I think is great. I also think that we could have more board materials in our agendas and have shorter staff presentations that would save us time. So, and that would mean still having the information and discussion we need to have while also having a shorter meeting. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Appreciate that. I don't think I have any points that are different from those that have been shared. I mean, well, I'm gonna take that back. Yeah, my understanding, the request to trial this or pilot this was based on and correct me if I'm wrong, feeling like this would accommodate or allow for increased community attendance, and I don't feel like I have seen that clearly. Again, I think it's the topic that drew the crowds and the participation, and I think that will remain the same. So I guess moving forward, I don't know if we just want to, do I need to throw a timeout and we do a thumbs up, thumbs down? How are you all comfortable doing this? I mean, I've heard clearly, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms.
I was gonna
Richardson.
say, I mean, excuse me, I'm not opposed to 5:30 if that's available. I guess it's kind of meeting us in the middle and just thinking about people getting off at 5 and having enough time to get here. But yeah, got a number.
I mean, Chair, I think this is at your discretion and you've gotten feedback from all of us. I mean,
Okay.
I'm happy with the 5:30. It's better, or, it's better to me than 5, but I've also see the will of my colleagues here. And if I think there was a vote, I would not be on the winning side of it. So
All right, I mean, we'll just do all in favor for, and I guess we'll start with the 5 options. So I guess by show of hands, how many people would prefer the 5 o'clock?
5 versus 5:30 or 5?
We're gonna do all.
And just, I think keeping in mind, if we have a closed session, it's just the 1 hour earlier. So closed session would be potentially 4:30 with a public start at 5:30.
That's
Or-
fine. I mean, it seems like people are feeling comfortable and wanting to consider the 5:30 time. So we can just, is everybody comfortable with that? Okay, so I got a fine by Ms. Dooley. Ms. Richardson, you okay with that?
Yes, I'm okay.
All right. 5:30. 5:30, public meeting starts. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. And we are now going to board response to written reports. A lot of good information in here and reports to review, and just for the public's information. So we have just our school board written reports, chronic absenteeism written report. We have the CPD data for school locations, the first quarter, and this will now, correct me, Ms. Powell, this will be the format that this will be reported. Go ahead, Ms. Powell, if you'd like to. I think this is important for everybody to hear.
The lower section of that report, and I didn't realize that till this evening, actually needs to be updated. We settled on a different report that would break it out by month for the quarter. And then anyway, this was my mistake. I'd received an updated report from CPD after our deadline to submit for the agenda, and Leslie has already updated it. During the meeting, I sent it to Leslie, so it may be corrected now. If Leslie, if you want to flash it up on I don't know if you're able to, but I sincerely apologize that we've had a very exciting time cleaning out Walker and everything. And I received it. And then when I just was refreshing myself on it, as I sat down here this evening, I realized that what was originally posted with the agenda, this is different at the bottom. And what you'll see going forward is you'll see the first quarter will go to the first column, and then you'll see the latest 3 months, month by month, and then you'll see year to date, and it'll just keep progressing like that. It's just a little bit different lens than what was provided by the CPD crime analyst on that first pass. And I'd given feedback. I thought this would be more helpful. So anyway, it is corrected. Thank you, Leslie, for the quick work on that. This is what you will see going forward, but the bottom section, each month you'll see a summary of all the quarters that have passed, and then the month by month for the current quarter that just closed out. And your next report would be August for the quarter that closes in July.
Can I ask you, Ms. Powell, so the 2019, I don't know, there was one that was showing like the age of arrest and the location.
Oh, that's the arrest. So there are 2 reports actually, and you will, thank you, Leslie. So the earlier report is what the board started to see, I think sometime last year, that calls for service, because it was in response to, well, how much are you working with the police? How often are they needing to come to the schools? And that was, that's why that report is delimited to between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. responding to school addresses. This is actual arrests data. And for this, we can get into the demographics that were asked for, because on calls for service, so often like if it's a suspicious person, vandalism or theft, or they don't always capture, unless it becomes a thing, the demographics aren't captured. But these all have demographics for anyone who's under the age of 18. And what this also shows is a lot of times what the police are responding to, and this also is not time delimited. So this is 24 hours a day, 365, but it's also adults, even during the school day sometimes, like sometimes it's an adult matter. And they also added something that I thought was interesting. We didn't ask for that, but if you go up to the headings, Leslie, officer initiated, that is whether an officer saw something or whatever and responded to it, or whether it was like a call for service. And so N means it was not officer initiated. But yes, could be something like someone speeding or DUI, but it ends at our campus, right? That would be officer initiated as an example.
So that was my question, I guess. So this doesn't really tell us time of day that these calls are happening, because this, I mean, you start to look at the, like the ones that, are school aged.
Yeah.
It's just that,
So that we could get that added, because this report is not time delimited, so you don't know if it was during the day or after hours. I can get that added probably the time of day. So thank you for that feedback.
and then I know we've provided this information. I think I did in an email that went out to everybody, but as far as somehow looking at if and when, or which, hopefully none, actually happen within the schools.
You mean inside a building versus out on the campus? I'll take that as I know, I feel fairly confident they should have the times in their database. The location beyond the address, I'm not sure, but keep in mind that with regard to the SRO program, in the MOU, it describes the official contact reporting form. So there's going to be another data set. So I do want to be clear that when I say like, yes, this is the gist of where we're going, this is just with CPD's data.
Right.
There's going to be other data through our processes that are described in the MOU that will also be part of the reporting and monitoring. So I say that only because with that official contact report, there'll be more opportunity to capture maybe some of the things you're looking for, like location inside, outside this, or outside on the campus, that type of thing.
I would imagine that for the purposes of the board's work, once you ask CPD to go back and timestamp this, the only thing that would be prudent to the board's work is providing them the occurrences that happen during the school hours.
Which is the way we get calls for service right
Yeah.
now.
Okay.
One reason we didn't time delimitate this is, there's been discussion about things that happen during athletic events and things like that. And so, but again, I'm just not sure for purposes of reporting how much we can get into that, because something could happen after hours and it could still be related to the schools, because it could be something with an extracurricular activity.
And that may only be important for like Charlottesville Middle School and the Charlottesville High School, because that's the bulk of where events are happening, maybe. I mean, I can't imagine. I
In
don't
the
know, because I
evening.
think if you want to keep the main thing, when you open this report up, you want to see the frequency of what's happening during our operational hours.
And in the school buildings.
I mean,
Yeah.
keeping in mind that, yes, there are things that happen at, sporting events. But, and I know that we cannot manage that, because it's like, then you got to go through and sort by, you got to sync calendars, and that's that's getting someone to do a whole nother job. But I don't know, I was just trying to simplify it so that the board had the information they need to make informed decisions. And so the list really should be doing operational hours. So maybe it is 7 to 7. I mean,
For the arrests as well.
yeah, but I know like football games are late, and, so I know that there are things that go into the evening, but if we have to like sort through those things, I think that can be very tedious, and a lot of personnel hours can go into that.
Yeah, definitely not trying to complicate it, I guess, and maybe
Right.
this is a conversation we can have, as far in the working group as we kind of hone
Right.
the data and the reporting.
I think that would definitely could be a good place to talk about it, like how to just make it about what the board can use to inform their decisions.
I mean, it's not a huge volume of
It's not.
arrest data, but yeah, I'm happy to ask for anything that could possibly be like additional data field that they can
Right.
grab and roll in.
Thank you for your
Okay, just for
clarification.
clarity, that arrest was from November of 2019 all the way through April of 2026.
Correct. The dates aren't visible to me in this view, but I believe that's correct.
In the
Yeah.
information, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think somewhere, weren't there dates on there somewhere?
Looks like
It's in the case
It
number.
just,
Okay,
It's the
yeah,
case-
there it
The
is.
case number starts. with the
Years.
year.
It does give you the year.
that's helpful. Thank you.
Yes, that's important.
looking at just like some of the things that's listed on here, a lot of it looks like it's like after hours or it doesn't pertain to like what's happening
Right.
in the school. So was like some of this data like kind of used to come up with the decision that, to bring SROs?
From my perspective, it was the calls for service data. That's just the other report that was up earlier.
Mhm.
That's what administrators would feel more in the day-to-day of things, is that those call for service needs, to your point. But then when there were requests for like additional demographic information and things like that, we started to look more at what was happening around, in and around our schools that could where they could pull demographics and things like that with some fidelity. But the calls for service numbers are more of what I feel confident. Yeah, it had nothing to do with arrests, which was that other report.
Okay. Mhm.
All right, any other questions? All right, so we had that. Thank you for the clarification on that. Yeah, other reports in there. VDOE grant, we've got a nice written report and summary from the community schools. So please take a look at that if you haven't. Mr. Myers, do you have a question down there? Comment?
Oh, yeah, I think there's two interesting parts here, but Ms. Rasnick, congratulations. What I see here is significant, and the whole team, significant improvement on your chronic absenteeism. It looks like all of our schools are green. Sorry, elementary schools are all green, including Walker Upper Elementary School. A lot of them reduced their from 2025 to 2026 by multiple percentage points. So awesome. And even CHS and CMS dropped a couple points, showing a continued progression downward. So thank you for your efforts. I note we're, as a division, now not in the red, but in the orange. And I look forward, I guess if you may, were there certain things you thought this year that drove some of these reductions, and are there changes you're planning for next year?
I mean, all the credit needs to go to our school teams. This has been a strong investment on their part. I think, when we think about 2 years ago, some of the substantial changes that have been made, and they do celebrate that work, and we celebrate them. Some of the things, so we do anticipate these numbers continuing to change as we factor in flexible in-person instruction buyback time. So we'll be working through that in the next period of time. Sunrise had a lot of success with an after-school tutoring program, so that information has been shared with schools. Other schools also had success with after-school tutoring programs, but they've shared that information at the elementary level with each other. And then I think our continued success really rests on building those strong habits early. And so as our elementary schools continue to improve chronic absenteeism, that influences the habits that are established in families and with students for our later grades. And then we are working on like a targeted assistance framework for schools to make sure that they are monitoring the things that are evidence-based best practices, making sure they're using root cause analysis, not missing kids who could be captured through some of the strategies in place, and then focus on LMA to improve there. And then just the like ongoing work to make sure that our data is being captured accurately, and that we're not misrepresenting our students being absent if they're tardy, and things like that.
And one of Ms. Resnick's, at one of our more recent ELT meetings, one of the recommendations is that, this report move to quarterly. Perhaps the school board meeting immediately after the end of the 9 weeks. You know, we do feel like this is very informative of her work. But in terms of the school board, the question is, I guess, what is it doing for the school board?
Received.
Yeah, I just say, I appreciate, I think, obviously I've been talking about it every month, and I don't, maybe I think other colleagues still have been focused on it this year and wanted to see improvements, and by asking for reports, sometimes we get more improvements, you might say, but at the same time, I've seen more improvements, and I'm happy to have a report every quarter if that's, I think, a better use of staff time, so.
Thank you. I think we're fine with that. Everybody okay with that? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Rice.
Thank you. All right.
Sorry, Chair, one last thing is, there was a energy consumption and sustainability report in there. I just, colleagues, like to point out, I think hopefully we're going to stabilize our energy bills, which have gone up hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last years, which is money that we can spend on staff and teaching our children rather than paying the city for natural gas and Dominion for electricity. So as you learned a little bit about also about our CIP program, we approved some solar PPAs and have our power purchase agreements and have a solar system on KTEC now. And I do hope to see that those energy bills stabilize and allow us to use the money on educating our children. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and now we are at our second opportunity for comments from members of the community. So please approach the podium, state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, all. My name is Emily Kingsley, and I am the new collective bargaining chair for the Charlottesville Union. And I'm here to speak because I am feeling very concerned about the new language you all adopted in the updated collective bargaining resolution. Specifically, that the language seems really unclear and confusing. And I'm very concerned that we'll end up excluding some staff members from future bargaining who do not need legally to be excluded. And this was billed as small changes to the resolution, but in the back, I've been feverishly researching, and it does not seem like small changes and could actually have a major impact on staff and on the union as a whole. And I do understand with the confidential employees, the whole point is there could be conflicts of interest for specific employees who have access to very specific private information related to bargaining and related to employees' information. But from my research in the back, there are very, 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 very specific legal definitions for who gets to count as confidential. And it's not even just that you have access to confidential information, but those employees must be directly related to bargaining decisions or some type of labor management. There was even a court case that said that just typing up confidential records was not even enough to justify you to be a confidential employee. And again, I do understand there are specific employees who this would apply to. However, I'm really worried that the broad language that you all have just added to the updated resolution will result in many people in future years being barred from collective bargaining without just cause. And just specific things that we were kind of flagging in the back. For one thing, you all said the reason you needed to move so quickly was because some licensed professionals would be affected by this, but we can't figure out who the licensed professionals would be. Everyone you all listed would be in the ESP bargaining, which won't happen again for longer. And then other specific language things we had questions about, we went back in and looked at all the red that was added. It says department heads, and we couldn't figure out what that meant. Does that mean the division leadership, or is the department head like the chair of the English department at CMS? It also says instructional specialists. We really didn't know what that meant. Is that different than reading specialists? Who's that? And then also unclear language that it lists admin techs, tech support, and enrichment arts techs as being both included as confidential and not included. So it just seems really murky and confusing. And I'm disappointed that you all pushed it through so quickly when these are not small changes. This could actually be a really, really big deal. So we'll keep doing our research, and our goal, as always, is to empower CCS employees and protect our community of teachers and staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, y'all. It's Michael again. I do appreciate you taking my feedback into consideration with the 3 particular positions that I mentioned and talking about the athletic part that was in there as well. So I appreciate that. My concern and why I really did want it tabled is that the language, as Emily said, seems to include other positions beyond the 11 that I was sent. So when I asked, so I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm fully misunderstanding. Back on May 12th, we asked, you sent a list of 11 positions. 8 of them, we said, sure, that makes sense. 3 didn't make sense. And we adjusted that. That's great. But are there more that were not part of those 11, those 8? Are there more? It says instructional specialists. ESL was mentioned. Like, that wasn't part of the 11 that I was sent. You didn't list those, so I didn't address them. You only addressed what I brought up and ignored, and I asked, so on May 29th, I asked in an email to also, could you give me confirm that these are exactly the people that are affected? And I did not hear back from that. I asked again, I mean, we have not fully confirmed who are all the people affected, but we've pushed it through. So it feels kind of like we've evaded actually figuring out who it is. I mean, again, I hope I am mistaken, and please tell me afterwards if I'm mistaken on this. And I fully expect then that these will just be the only 8 employees affected. I expect that that's who it's going to be, because that's who was told to me. So if you're actually classifying others as confidential, more than the 8 that you sent me, and then naming them after you've already made the vote and decision, can you see why that feels misleading and deceptive? Like we're not getting the whole picture until we've pushed the decision through. But I hope I'm wrong. Thank you.
All right, we're closing that second opportunity, and now we are moving on to board member comments. Ms. Dooley? No? Ms. Richardson?
I guess for me, this is our last board meeting for the summer until the summer break. I enjoyed working with you guys. Another year has passed. We had a great graduation ceremony, Charlottesville Middle School. That was really nice. I appreciate Dr. Jordan's words to the students and Dr. Malloy. And I am hopeful and wishful for the new school year, for the SROs coming into the schools, preparing families, preparing my children as well. Trying not to have my guard up, but with open arms and heart to the new folks that's coming into our school. So other than that, I'm ready for the summer, and I hope you guys have a great and safe one.
Thank you. Ms. Cooper?
I don't have any comments.
Ms. Burns? No? Mr. Meyer?
Yeah, colleagues, one, I want to thinking about this school year, we did a lot, and I appreciate all that. There was heavier conversations, obviously, around that SRO topic this spring, and I appreciate everybody in those, and I want to acknowledge those. And I, again, I think we've been doing a lot of good work. We sometimes disagree, and I think we should. And I appreciate and respect everybody's opinions and look forward to working for you in the future. I just wanted to flag for you some things, and I do want to hear from you also what you all want to do next year, because I do want to work with all you on different things, and that includes you, Dr. Gurley, on some initiatives that you're thinking about, but things that I'm flagging for, that I'm thinking about for the next school year, and that we might, again, work on. Or one, I'm hoping to see this sales tax referendum be approved and us go work towards, again, hopefully getting an approval by our community to significantly fund the necessary infrastructure changes we need, as was outlined today by Mr. Goddard. And second, I am going to be following the ed tech policy discussions, and kind of how are screens being used, how are they helping or not helping our children learn, et cetera. So I wish all of you a restful summer, and again, look forward to hearing from you all what you might want to see done next year. Also, I'm working with you on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Quickly, just want to express my gratitude to you, Dr. Gurley, and your team for all that you do every day. I think we had a nice little recap of some really exciting things that are on the horizon. The Early Learning Center. Again, just the good work that we continue to do, the vision of Dr. Gurley and the team and the board supporting that. Again, the middle school opening up fully. So that'll be pretty exciting. Again, I think for me, just looking at that CIP list, a lot of the things that we get to put a check mark by the time the school year starts is pretty exciting. Which then, the students get to benefit staff in those buildings. So a lot of good things. So I appreciate you all. Everybody stay safe. Again, my gratitude from my heart to all of you. So thank you much. And Dr. Gurley.
All right, good evening. Just want to thank everyone for a wonderful school year. I hope our students are having a great start to their summer. A lot of PL is happening in our schools right now. And so I know a lot of times people think that the summer is rest and relaxation, but we are closing one school year and quickly starting another. But I do want to thank everyone for their hard work, and congratulations to the school board for, it was a great year. With all the highs and lows, it still was a great year for our students.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Swift, anything on our list? All right, thank you. Upcoming meetings, our next board meeting, our first of that new academic school year, August 6th at 5:30 will be our start time. And then closed session would be at 4:30, and that would be here. at the Media Center at Charlottesville High School. Mr. Meyer.
On this upcoming meeting, I think we have a joint meeting with City Council now also scheduled for, is it August 12th?
I don't have that date in front of me.
I think it is August 12th. And again, that is where I think we're going to be potentially talking about some of the new school buildings, everybody. So
Okay.
I just want to make sure everybody also knows that. Thanks.
Thank you for that. All right. And with that, I will adjourn. Everybody stay safe.